Good morning, everybody, or good evening to the people of New York African Film Festival. We are very happy and pleased to have Lucie Viver today with us. Lucie Viver, as she told me is the right pronunciation. She has a film called Sankara n'est pas mort, Sankara Is Not Dead, shot and set in Burkina Faso. This is a documentary that has traveled all around the world, did its world premiere in Cinéma du Réel in France, went to Doc Leipzig, and was showed in West Africa, in Nigeria, one of the biggest film festival now in Africa. It went also to Camden. It was shown everywhere, South Africa, South America, and India and Pakistan, among other countries. Lucie Viver, welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much to you.
And my first question would be, you picked Bikontine, who is a poet living in Burkina Faso, and your movie is shot in a way that is beautiful. Is it also a piece of poetry? Would you say that?
The portrait of the poet, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, of course, it's both. My first goal was to portray the country, Burkina Faso, after the 2014 uprising. That was my main goal. But I didn't want to do it myself like a foreigner, let's say. I really wanted to make this portrait through the eyes of a Burkinabe person. And this Burkinabe person is a poet, it's Bikontine, as you just said. And of course, as I picked him up, it's also his portrait, because we understand what are his wanderings at that moment. He wants, of course, Burkina is a country where life is difficult, and he's asking, he's wondering, should he stay or should he live abroad to find a better life, to look for a better life? And this question, this dilemma is carried all along the film.
It's beautifully carried all around the film. And you mentioned something that is very important. You talked about the 2014 uprising in Burkina Faso. Could you tell us more about it? How did you get to know about it and what was it about?
Yes, I knew the country before. So of course, when the uprising occurred, started in 2014, I immediately understood it was a major event, political event. A lot of Burkinabe people went out in the streets, and they managed to the president in power to resign after 27 years of power. So, you know, for Burkina and also for all Africa, that was a very, very important event. And I was really interested in it. I followed everything through my contacts with Bikontine, because I met him before, 3 years before. And I was really close to the event. I was not there at that moment, but I followed very, very closely the event. That was the starting point of the film. I wanted to understand what's going to happen next. I didn't want to do something about the political event because I was not there. There was no point, but I really, and I was sharing that feeling with Bikontine at that time. We were curious, of course, enthusiastic, curious, because it was very, very big wave of hope there. But at the same time, we were a bit worrying about the country, because it can be possible to make an uprising, but how to deal with the rest, with the future. So that was our question when we started the film. We wanted to understand what's going to happen next and how the people are feeling there after the uprising.
Interesting. And that uprising happened against Blaise Compaoré, who was the president after 27 years. Blaise Compaoré, who came after a coup that killed Thomas Sankara. That was the first president, like kind of a revolutionary person who was much loved in the 60s. And why do you say Sankara is not dead? Do Burkinabe people think that Sankara is not dead?
Yes, most of them. And especially, thanks for this question and for this link, because when the uprising happened, many people said it was Thomas Sankara's revenge, because it's true that just before Blaise Compaoré, Thomas Sankara was in power, and he made a lot of things, positive things for the country. Maybe we will talk about that later. But so he was really loved, deeply loved by the majority of the people. And even though 27 years were passing, he was still, Thomas Sankara was still in mind, and people's mind and heart. So when young people who were not even born under Sankara, they didn't know Sankara alive, only by talking or books, they were referring to him during the uprising. They were I don't know, singing about him, they were shouting about him, they were really linked to him. So it was called Thomas Sankara's revenge. And apart from that event, specific event, the uprising, of course, Thomas Sankara is really, really everywhere in people's mind and heart. Even in a smaller, very small village, even when people didn't go to school. So it means really it's, from one generation to another generation, people talk about him, and his legacy is going on like that.
That's great that he is still in people's minds and hearts. And I read that the film was shown in Burkina Faso, in cities and small villages. Can you talk a little bit about that? What was the experience? Do you have an exceptional memory of it?
Yes. I really, for me, it was really important to show the film there as soon as possible. So even in 2000, the film is finished since March 2019, and in next summer, in summer to 2019, Bikontine and I decided to show the film, to screen the film in different places where we traveled, where we were shooting actually. That was a bit impressive for us, of course, because we were excited to have the feedback, of course. People were surprised by the film first, I think, because they can see their country, can discover their country in a way they never see it usually. They can discover so many different situations, so many different characters, and for example, the sugar cane. They use that sugar every day, but they cannot imagine how the sugarcane workers, in which conditions the sugarcane workers actually work. So first of all, they are really surprised to see so many aspects, and they are very proud to hear ordinary people talking. It's not political, political heads, political parties heads, or it's not activists, famous activists talking. It's really ordinary people, let's say ordinary at first sight, but of course they can become extraordinary if you consider what they are actually saying. So they really like that, because they understand that they could speak freely and they can hear like true talk, true speech. And the next thing, of course, is Thomas Sankara's legacy. They are sad in a way, because of course, as you could see, or as the audience will be able to see, people are quite disappointed after that uprising. Of course, the situation is a bit like stuck. So the Thomas Sankara becomes, of course, again a reference, but how to use that reference efficiently. So they start to question themselves. Okay, so we have that wonderful legacy, but what can we do with that? now that we change after such a big change, a big uprising, but nothing really changed. So what could we do? And so they start to debate, and it was always very interesting to hear their opinion on that.
I'm very curious about those opinions, like why this uprising in 2014 that was full of hope, why things didn't work for you, knowing all that you know from this documentary and the people who are based in Burkina.
Yeah, I think, of course, I'm not a specialist, I'm not a political analyst. I really try to make a portrait of the country with my feelings, with my hurts, with the poetry, with that poet. But of course, I read a lot of things, and I talk a lot, I chat a lot when I am in Burkina with my friend there. And I think one of the biggest problems is that there was no opposition, strong opposition before the uprising. So when the uprising,
opposition leaders against the president.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. You had the artists, the activists, the citizens, but citizens groups, but not really a very structured opposition. So when the election came, after one transition year, 1 year of transition, when the election came, I mean, the old parties and the old political leaders, they managed to stay in power, to keep power in another way. Of course, things are a little different, but not as much as we could hope.
So you meant that the same system stayed, even though some people have changed.
Exactly, and especially economically, because even if you change politically, let's say more or less the system, if the economic system doesn't change, means still the corruption, still the semi-elites earning a lot of money while the others are working very hard for nothing. It's still the same way of life, and people are still desperate about that.
That means people are still desperate about that. I want to come back about the ordinary people that you said, ordinary probably, but becoming extraordinary sometimes by their stories and what they live. At what point of the film did you make that choice? Was it always clear, or did it happen before shooting or while editing?
Yes, the meeting, let's say the conversation or the meeting, was really the main basis of the film. I picked up Bikontine to be the main character. I wanted him to travel. I really because for me it was really very important to discover different situations and to interact with many different characters. So the meeting, the conversation was really the point of the film.
What do you call the meeting?
Yeah, the meeting, it's not the good word, sorry, in English. En français, Mamadou, ça serait la rencontre, the encounter.
The encounter with Bikontine?
Every time Bikontine is meeting somebody.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. His encounters.
Yeah, his encounters was really the point of the film, because at the same time you discover a situation, you discover a character, and you discover Bikontine as well, because he's interacting with them, and at some point he's unveiling some part of himself.
I see. So those encounters were prepared, or did they just happen by feeling? Did they happen in front of the camera, or did you say, we're going to go in this city and then we're going to meet this person? How was it? How was the process?
Every time we arrive in a new village or in a new town, first of all, we take time to settle, to meet different people, to understand what's going on. We share the everyday life with villagers or with citizens. And Bikontine and I are talking, and we decide which person, which character we would like to talk to, we would like to shoot, to film. So we propose to that person, and if this person is okay, we film this encounter. So it's most of the time it's let's say le hasard, mais le hasard en anglais, je ne sais pas. The documentary surprises, of course, the documentary gifts, because we met really wonderful persons, but at the same time we chose those persons among a lot of different persons. So it's half luck and half work and thinking, let's say.
Yeah, it made me curious now how much you shot and how much you did edit out. Did you meet a lot of people, or these are like the main?
Yes, a lot. Too much, actually, I guess. But it's you can, of course, it was too much. The shooting lasted 3 months. So these 600 kilometers along the railroad took us 3 months. And I came back with nearly 300 hours rush.
Wow.
Yes, it's a lot. So it was a lot of work to edit afterwards. But I think the variety.
The variety.
Variety of the situations are coming from this big amount of rushes. We had so much material to edit, to build the film, that it was richer, I guess, or I don't know how to say that. It was richer. Let's say. Plus riche en français.
Yeah, richer probably. And I like that you're talking about the editing. It seems like to follow a pattern of encounters or slices of life, poetry, Bikontine being telling his with voiceover, and moments of protest. And was that happened through the editing, or let's say this is how you envisioned the movie even when you started shooting?
I knew that the film would be before shooting. My attempt was to show the travel, Bikontine's travel, and to hear his poems. I knew that, but the archival footage from there are two types of archival footage: Thomas Sankara's speeches, and so in the 1980s, so a long time ago, and also some archival footage out of the 2014 Uprising. And that I was not sure before editing. That came at the editing part of the work.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess it's helping a lot to understand the powerful, how powerful was Thomas Sankara's speeches, and the link with the anger of the people in 2014.
Wow, that's interesting. But now I want to talk also about another aspect of filming and filmmaking, especially in documentary, which is distribution, because generally you follow, as independent filmmakers, the independent festivals and submit to them. And I've seen also even your distribution, your sortie has been like jeopardized by COVID, and it ended up being a digital one. What do you think about that? How did it impact your film? Is it a good or a bad thing? Is it better?
Well, I would say that my main regrets, or so the film was supposed to go out to go out in theaters on big screen and with a nice sound system. Of course, when you go online, finally the film was going out online. You never know how people watch the film. Is it on their small computer? Do they have a proper sound system? So you really didn't know. So you really don't know. So I'm a bit, regretting that aspect. But what was interesting is that there was a lot of conversation possible. I made like around 20 online debate with the audience. even though I was home. So that was really strange because I was home during all the lockdown time. But at the same time, I met a lot of people in the audience. Maybe I couldn't have made so many debates live because you have to pay the train ticket, you have to pay the hotel sometimes. I mean, the cinemas, the theaters have to invite you and spend money. As it was free to have me presenting the film, this opportunity came many times. So I was able to talk about the film many times.
And do you think those people were different audience members that you wouldn't have in a screening room, or do you think they're the same people that watch the film online?
Little bit different, I guess. Yes. Because in France, as you might not know, maybe you, Mamadou, but maybe not American audience, it's mainly older people, let's say, for documentary, for creative documentary. Let's say that most of the audience are old. I mean, let's say white-haired. We call it white-haired, and then white-haired. And I guess that by going online, the audience might have been a bit younger.
And also, talking about the audience and the screens, I am maybe just shooting in the dark here. And we see people now use screens, smaller screens all the time, especially with COVID. Do you think that filmmakers have to adapt to that means? Or do you think we just still be shooting for bigger screens and hoping that our films are going to always be released in theaters?
Honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's true that the platforms went stronger and stronger with the lockdown, of course. So I think we definitely have to think about this way of distributing films. Although in France, we are like a bit, we are very strongly attached to the big screen, because our history is, we have a very big link with the big screen. But as things are going, maybe the platform are another way to have another audience, to gain, to reach another audience.
Yeah, because while I was watching your film, because there are so many beautiful shots, long shots. I mean, there are this moment where Bikontine is himself like playing on the railroad. I'm just thinking that would have been great if I was in a theater and watching that in a big screen. But I'm just watching it on my tiny laptop, so it would have been a different. But now I want to also come back about Bikontine. How is he doing now?
He's okay, thankfully. He's still in Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina. He's normally he's a conteur in French. He's giving his stories. He's telling stories to children, but also to adults, of course. So it's his job. Unfortunately, with the COVID era, everything is very slow, going slower and slower there, especially cultural activities. So it's a bit difficult for him right now, but he's still in his home country.
So he's holding up. And also it's very interesting that the film started as the voiceover talking about the choice between going to Europe or doing the upbringing, doing the uprising. So it was very interesting for me to see that the choice is you fight the power in your country or you travel hoping for a better world. Do you think the situation is still the same for the younger people in Bobo Dioulasso, in Burkina in general?
Yes, I think so. Even though they really love their country, they really love Burkina. I cannot speak for all countries in Africa, of course. I can speak only about what I know. They really love their country. They really want to do something for the country. But apparently, every day or every night, or I don't know, very, very often, they think about leaving and doing something else abroad and sending money to the family. So I guess it must be very hard to live, like torn apart like this.
Because there are not many opportunities now, especially with the COVID.
No, and especially not with the COVID. Yes, it's true. Mm.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
And
unemployment in Burkina. The worst thing for young people is unemployment. You don't. It's difficult to find a good job opportunity and to be happy in your professional life.
okay. And those who go to Europe, how do you know any Burkinabe in the diaspora who have seen the film? What did they
Yeah.
say about it?
Yes, they like it. I mean, diaspora is not so different from Burkinabe in Burkina. No, maybe they are a little bit more disturbed by the fact that we see poor people. I mean, people who have a hard life. But sometimes I'm surprised because I say, but you know, it's like this. And if you want to portray Burkina, I want it to be honest. I mean, and for me, some people who meet difficulties now, they are so hopeful, full of hope. They are so much full of determination, strength, and the humor and everything that I don't even see anymore the poverty, you know. But for diaspora, sometimes I think it's hard for them to see again the country in very difficult economical situation.
Okay. And also coming back to Bikontine, does he think that the hope is justified now? When you talk to him, even though it's harder, you said, with the pandemic that is happening.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Does Bikontine still thinks that the hope is justified right now at this moment?
Yeah, he's torn apart. It's very, it's hard. He's trying to be, to be strong and to be positive, but of course it's hard, and especially with the COVID time. Burkina has two different two different difficulties right now. It's COVID, of course, as everywhere in the world, but also the jihadist aspect with all these attacks concerning Mali, Niger, and Burkina. So it's really hard for the country because the tourists are not going there anymore. Most of them are afraid, and tourists were a part of job opportunities for young people and for culture and art.
Wow, that must be very hard. I want to probably end with this question. I mean, one of the last ones probably is that we feel some kind of pride about the railroad. Like we have this scene in the cave where Bikontine was talking to this young kid who's never seen a train, but whose granddad talked to him about it. But you could say how happy they about it. I know that one of the reasons was there was a type or a part of the tracks that were made by Sankara and his people at that time. So was it the reason that you picked the railroad, or are there any other ones?
Yes, exactly. I first of all, I didn't know which kind of itinerary, which kind of way we should follow. But when I was there scouting, I heard about that. There is only one railroad in Burkina, only one. It was first built by the French during colonization, but then in the 80s, Sankara decided to make it longer, and they managed to build 100 kilometers more without any help from abroad, only by themselves. You can see some archival footage of that moment in the film. They carry the big pieces of metal by themselves, and of course there are some Burkinabe engineers, and from one village to another village, population was mobilized to work a little bit on that construction. And they are very proud. They call it La Bataille du Rail, the rail struggle or something like that. And they are very proud about it. Everybody knows that. And what is sad is that after Thomas Sankara's assassination, the work stopped brutally. So the railroad stops brutally in the middle of the bush. And after that part, that famous part built by Burkinabe themselves, was abandoned, was closed and left abandoned, and is now ruined. So especially when I show the film, I screen the film in Burkina, the audience is really shocked and sad about that that big hope, that big utopia launched by Sankara is now, you know, derelict, completely derelict. So that was a very interesting way to tell the country, the situation of the country, because the big hope, you have this big hope coming from 2014 uprising, but now people are disappointed. And as a metaphor, you have this railroad partly built by the Burkinabe people under Sankara, but now it's abandoned. So this parallelism seemed to me interesting to make.
Of course, I think it shows, it could have sound like in Ethiopia, but it also shows a lot of the power of, I mean, the willpower of a politician, of a person who had the vision. Exactly. And I think your movie is beautiful about that, showing Burkina in talking about politics, talking about democracy, about France and everyday life. I'm also want to know what's next now for Lucie.
I'm writing new films. Of course, because of the COVID, it's hard to travel or hard to shoot, even in France. Some shootings are happening, but it's very difficult protocol, hard and strict protocol. So now I mainly write, and I have a documentary project, another documentary project in
Burkina Faso.
Yes, with another artist, but not a poet. So I'm trying to go on with that, first of all.
Yeah, we wish you best of luck, and thank you again for having shared this beautiful film that is Thomas Sankara Is Not Dead. Thank you, Lucie Viver, for your time.
Thank you, Mamadou.
And thank you for the answers.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.